Trust the Lord to work out his plan. This is hard. When you're in the middle of the dark situation, Kaylee, when you're right in the middle of the diagnosis, when you're right in the middle of the pain and the crutches, and when it's hard to see a future. All we see is this isn't going to work out. Brother Bobby, that's all we can see sometimes, is saying, oh man, this isn't going to work out. I'm not going to be able to do it. And discouragement begins to fill us. And during this time, God says, trust me during this time. Trust me to work out my plan. Now listen, he didn't say you know the plan I have for you. God says, I know the plan I have for you. We don't always know the plan. I'm almost certain that when Sarai and Abram got married, if Sarai, who was later Sarah, if Sarai knew all the things that dirty, rotten scoundrel Abraham was going to do, let me tell you something, she would have never married him. And you want a little bit of deeper Bible study on this? They were not together when she died. He had to travel to where she was to her funeral. There was so much water under the bridge that they were not even together. Think about that. Do your little study. Prove me wrong. Interesting. God doesn't give us the plan, because if he gave us the plan, we probably wouldn't go through with it when we realized the pain, the heartache, the different curves and the twists and the turns. If we knew all of that, we wouldn't do that. God says, I know my plan. You have to trust me. They are plans for good and not for disaster, even though that may be disaster may be a part of the plan. My plan for you is not disaster, to give you a future and a hope. I want you to think about this. There is a great illustration of this in the Bible itself in a man named Joseph. Joseph found himself in some bad situation. Matter of fact, one bad situation after another situation after another situation. His brothers were jealous of him because their father favored him, and they knew that he was going to inherit all the land, and one day they was going to have to answer to him. So his 10 brothers devised a plan to get rid of him. They stripped him of his clothing and sold him as a slave to foreigners to a strange land of Egypt. It was a bad situation and a dark time for this young man. It says he was 17 years old. But he kept a smile on his face, and he focused on what was right in front of him. He focused on doing the next right thing, and that's what he did. He kept doing the next right thing. He kept serving the Lord. He kept loving people where he was. He kept doing what he was supposed to do. And a prominent man in Egypt named Potiphar, a slave, bought him as a slave in the market, took him to his home, made him over his whole estate after realizing that this young man was blessed, and that realizing that this man put everything in front of him. He always did the right thing, what was in front of him. And he said, Joseph, I want you to be over my whole estate. And he was a great man who had great lands. But just when everything was going smoothly, Potiphar's wife came to him and tried to seduce him, and he wouldn't let it happen. So the lady got mad at Joseph, filed charges against him of terrible things that he did not do. Potiphar, knowing in the back of his mind that Joseph probably didn't do these things, instead of killing him on the spot, which is what they did back then when this happened, put him in a deep, dark dungeon for the rest of his life. And Joseph, having done nothing wrong, is in a deep, dark dungeon for at least a year, we know. Until one day, the king's servants, the cupbearer and the baker, came suspicious of a crime to go against the king. So the king found out about it, put them both in the dungeon until it could be sorted out, until they could find all the evidence they needed to get the right guy. And while they're in there that night, they both have a dream, and Joseph is in there, and they start telling Joseph about the dream. And Joseph says, tell me the dream. And God gave Joseph the ability to interpret the dream. And he told the cupbearer, he said, oh man, in 3 days, you're going to be restored back to your job. And then the baker said, hey, tell me my dream. Since his was favorable, mine will be too. And Joseph said, I'm sorry. After 3 days, you're going to be taken and you're going to be hung. And they're going to kill you.
And he told the cupbearer, remember me when you get back in front of the king. So he left, just like Joseph said, the dream came true. He went back to the king, and it said that he forgot all about Joseph. Didn't even give him another thought. Poor Joseph. He sat in that prison, that dungeon, for 2 more years. But see, when Joseph was 17, God gave Joseph a dream. God gave him a dream, and God told Joseph, one day you're going to be a great ruler. That's all Joseph had to hang on to. But listen, while he's going through all this, it's hard for him to see that that dream was ever going to become real because of all the darkness that he had faced in his life. 2 years later, the king has a dream. Nobody can interpret this dream, and the cupbearer says, oh my goodness, I forgot all about, there's a guy in your dungeon. There's a guy in your prison right now. Hopefully he's still alive. Hopefully he hadn't expired yet. I mean, you didn't live long in those dungeons. The conditions were bad. Disease, famine, sickness. I mean, there wasn't, give me a Tylenol. Wasn't none of that. He said, I hope he's still alive. There's a guy in your dungeon down there. He told me my dream. And remember when all this happened, King? And I was justified and I was cleared of all the charges. It was him that told me exactly what was going to happen. And the king said, go get him right now. And they went down there. And Joseph, he's down there probably just, oh man, he's probably mopping the floors because it said he was over the jails. He's mopping the floors, just serving the Lord. He's serving the Lord. He's waiting. He's waiting for the time that he knows God has given him a hope and a future. He just don't know when it's going to come yet. And he goes down there and they say, hey, come on, you're going before the king. And they cleaned him up and put him some clothes on him and brought him up there. And he told him the dream. And Joseph said, I'll tell you your dream. God will give me the power to tell you your dream. He never took credit for it. He always gave credit to God. And the king says, man, I can see that you are gifted. Now we're going to have 7 good years. We're going to have 7 years of famine. And Joseph, I want you to be the man. I want you to be the man over all the land. God has given this ability to you, so he gave him his ring. And Joseph became second in command in Egypt. And guess who had to come get groceries from Egypt? His brothers that sold him came to Egypt to get groceries. Joseph notices them and he's like, oh, there's my brothers right there. Hey man, hey, go put this golden cup in their bag. I'm going to get their attention. And they chased him down. First time they had their money back in their sack. When they got the second time, he put a golden cup in their sack. And he's like, oh man, we're in trouble now. And they brought him forward, and then they noticed it was their brother who was now in command over Egypt. And they freaked out. They immediately thought, oh my, he's going to hang every one of us. He's going to kill us all. He's going to kill us. That's not what Joseph did. Joseph didn't get angry. He didn't let unforgiveness sabotage his success. He didn't let the things of the world that he could have. He could have rightly killed all of them right then, and guess what? Been justified in doing so, but not before God. He says, don't be upset. This is Genesis 45:5. Don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves. Listen to how Joseph sees all this that happened to his life. Don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. Can you see the attitude change? I mean, he just flipped this on the enemy's head. He says this, God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. Verse 7. Then in verse 8, he goes on to say, so it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace and the governor of all Egypt. Joseph said, hey, you thought it was you that did this? God was allowing this to happen for a reason. Chapter 50, verse 20. Joseph tells them, you intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. Wow. The enemy is constantly trying to harm you, to captivate you, to get you exiled, to keep you depressed and angry and unforgiving. God is going to flip all this around. It says, God brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. You meant this for evil, but God turned this around for good. And God had a plan. And although we couldn't see the plan, although through all the betrayal of his family, being stripped of everything in his life, being a foreigner and a stranger in a strange land, being falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit, being put in a dungeon, a dark dungeon for years. When God is working his plan out in our lives, it doesn't always look pretty. Noah, doesn't look pretty. But God can turn this around. And that's what we know God can do, and that's what we want God to do. It doesn't always feel good when we are going through the brokenness and darkness of bad situations. We have to trust that God knows the plan, and we have to keep our head up so when the opportunity comes for God to turn this around, we're ready with the right attitude, with the right motives, ready to forgive, ready to extend grace. God will turn this around on the enemy's head. And one day,